down here. Would like to thank KES, Mr. Brian Rise, who's here making sure it all works right this morning. Our IT department is here to make sure all that works correctly. Building services have been at it down here for quite a while, getting this ready to go. And thank all of them for all the work they've done. It was a good day to move, obviously. There are restrooms through the doorway over here. If you need a handicapped restroom, there's one in the corner of the hallway that's very accessible. There's an elevator behind this wall if you need to use the elevator. So let's get started. Call the meeting to order. All rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Be seated.
It's not going to work.
Any citizens' concerns that's not on the agenda as we go through? Hearing none. Take approval of the agenda for today. Need a motion?
I would move approval of the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. One more quick comment. We're going to have to tweak this as we go. I'm staring at a podium. We got to figure out something different than that. And we're also very low, so can't see everybody. I don't know what we'll do about it, but we're going to work at it, and we'll get this going as soon as we can. Okay, you need approval of minutes for February 3rd.
Mr. Chairman, I would seek a correction to the minutes.
That would be?
In item number 13, the minutes state the action to approve Building Services Department as representative to the board, and all negotiations, contracts, specifications, and design was settled in action previously taken. At the time, I asked our HR director and assistant county attorney if the addition of the chairman's language concerning the retention of an architect was objected to. They stated it was not. And so I'll repeat the motion that I made, and I'll state it verbatim. I said that I would move that the Woodbury County resolution of certificate of substantial completion for contractors that the HR director had put forward be adopted with the additional language under item number 13, starting with the phrase, when an architect is retained. The motion was seconded by Mr. Ung, and the board unanimously approved it. And so I would ask that the minutes reflect that, and in so doing that item number 6D be out of order in the agenda. So I would move that the minutes be approved as amended as previously stated.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Need a motion on the claims?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
have to explain something that took place is that the AP edits that were forwarded to you were the AP edits from a previous meeting, from the meeting before. I'd like to say it was just a test to see if anybody was watching, but Mr. Taylor picked up on it. So Ms. Jessen is printing those out. So I just wanted to explain that to you. Here they are right here. So whatever you want to do with the claims for this week, but the wrong edits were emailed to you.
All right, is there anything that needs to be paid?
No, there's nothing out of the ordinary there.
Will we defer them until next week?
I would second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Human Resources. Yes, sir.
We had a couple of different things for discussion. One of the things, and I want to make sure I'm in the right order, we wanted to start a hiring process for emergency services for emergency management coordinator. And we also wanted to start hiring process, initiate hiring process for district foreman for secondary roads.
Okay, need approval of memorandum for personnel transactions.
Move it.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Need motion to authorize chairman to sign the initiation to hire process.
Move it.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
On the form here, it says it's under direct authority of the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors. I think it's under direct authority of the Emergency Management Commission.
That would be correct. That should be the
That
way
would be correct.
Okay.
we would amend that memorandum, so stated.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Secondary Roads District Foreman Wage Plan Matrix Steps.
The wage matrix, what has happened is there's some confusion. I'm sorry, go ahead.
There you go.
What's happened is there is some confusion between what Mark was thinking we had been approved by the board and perhaps what we in Human Resources thought was approved. The way the wage matrix is currently set up, for a foreman, there would be, you could hire from the first through the third step, and then you could hire, you would do the wage increases at 6 months, and at 6 months, 3 years, and 6 years. And the proposal is that we would be allowed to hire at any step, and that you could then have an increase at 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and 6 years. The increase would be the same. Would be the same encompassing increase. It's just that it would be divided into yearly increments. So I don't really have an objection to that, and it's certainly up to the board's decision if they would decide to go ahead and allow the person to be hired at any one of the first 6 steps, as opposed to the first 3 as it had been in practice.
Mark?
Mark Nara, Woodbury County Engineer. We had set this up with Steve Thomas. One of the issues that we've seen with that foreman's wage is if they start below that 3-year level, they're actually taking a pay cut when they move from equipment operator, a position where the senior employees who typically apply for the position are getting sub-foreman wage premium of $1.50 an hour plus overtime for all the hours that they work during the winters. With Steve Thomas, we had put this into a wage as is proposed with a 4, 5, 6 year step. Steve is now at level 5 of that. That's also consistent with Mike Gray, who was hired and brought up in single year steps over a 4-year period. Tom Hankey, the foreman hired prior to that, was hired at the full wage when he was promoted. Keeping these people locked in at that 3-year wage until they get out to year 6 really creates a pay disparity, not only between them and the employees eligible for overtime working directly under their supervision, but it also puts them at a tremendous differential between their fellow foremen. This isn't a job where we're putting somebody into the position that needs 3 years to learn the job. Within 3 to 6 months, they're fully functional, and I'd like to see that pay be at least commensurate to that. The 4 years is a compromise that's consistent with what the board did with Mike Gray. It's consistent with the change we made for Steve Thomas. I'd like to see that instituted for Forrest Johnson and whoever we pick to replace Steve Thomas now that he's announced his retirement.
Questions?
What do you want to do with the starting wage? You want to bring them in how?
Anywhere between the probationary and 3-year wage, depending upon whether they're coming from outside or hired from within. Basically, the information that I shared with the board when we addressed Steve Thomas's wage showed that 3-year wage, looking at the 45-hour week that the foreman work, was about equivalent to the hourly wage of the equipment operator, plus the $1.50 an hour sub-foreman premium that's paid to them when they're acting as foreman, plus the eligible overtime for the extra 5 hours a week that they're working.
Seems like a very reasonable thing as far as we're concerned.
You're recommending?
Yeah, I would recommend that we go ahead and do this. It's, to remain competitive, it's something I think that we have to do. We want the best people in that position, so I think it's something we need to do.
Need a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Building Services Certificate of Substantial Completion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This would be an item that I would recommend be out of order in the agenda, as we've already corrected it through action in the minutes.
Yes, I would agree, and have copies here if anybody would like them.
Okay, we've already done it.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of resolution thanking and commending years of service for a county employee. Need a motion?
Move it.
Need a second?
I would second. Mr. Chair, can you give us a little background on the resolution?
Steve Thomas, who he just spoke about, is retiring from secondary roads, and we approve the resolution, which we just signed, and it gets framed, and next week we'll present it.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure that we
Right.
present it to him eventually. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Did I get a second? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Board Administration, approval of lifting tax suspension for VS. Need a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same, say nay. Okay. Veterans Affairs, need a motion to accept Veterans Affairs quarterly report.
Move it.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. County Auditor, receive Odo Township trustee appointment. Need a motion to accept David Terrell.
Move to accept.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay. John Palello, Planning and Zoning. Morning.
Today, we've got a multi-action issue in regard to adopting a updated floodplain map. Back in September of 2014, Woodbury County received notification from FEMA that they had updated their flood insurance study for Woodbury County, as well as amended a map panel of impacting about 2 square miles of rural Woodbury County. Analysis of the map indicates that there are no significant changes negatively impacting Woodbury County rural property owners or their structures, but by necessity to continue our cooperation and involvement in flood insurance in Woodbury County, as well as qualifying loans to be approved should citizens of the county apply for federal assistance. We need to adopt this panel. We're to the point where I'm requesting you hold a public hearing, do the third reading of the particular ordinance change, and then vote to adopt the ordinance in the language that I provided within your packets. Be happy
Okay.
to answer any questions.
The first action we need to take
Hold a public hearing.
right now.
Yes.
We are now in public hearing over the adoption of an ordinance 36. Anyone to speak for or against?
Mr. Chairman, hearing no one, I move the hearing be closed.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Next action.
Would be to hold the third reading of the ordinance. I can read it into the record, or we can just accept it as submitted within your packets and within the ordinance that I'll have you sign.
Anybody want it read?
No, thank you.
Needed a motion?
adopt ordinance number 36.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
I'd like to present to the board 3 copies of the ordinance in question. I need all 3 copies signed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, secondary roads. Mr. Mark Nera.
Mark Nara, Woodbury County Engineer. Good morning.
Morning.
Again. I'm asking the board's consideration of a resolution of support for a surface transportation program application. This is to improve Port Neal Road from just south of 235th Street, which is where the second City of Sioux City project leaves off, down to the north end of where we have the improved road at the north end of the Gelita property. The proposal is to replace the existing pavement, widen shoulders, and bring that road into condition in coordination with the rest of the road in that area.
This would be through Simcoe's Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Yes, this is through the MPO.
Need a motion?
Move the chairman be authorized to sign.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Number 2.
The second item is to approve amended budget number 1 for the Iowa Department of Transportation. Our budget was amended in December at the county level, where we added $20,000 to our building and grounds area to cover the expense of the new water project in the city of Mobile that extended service out to our facility. And then to add in the money from the first year of our bridge program, to amend that into fiscal year 2015 where it could be spent. We let those bridges in fiscal year 2014, but work did not commence until fiscal year 2015. So that was the 2 changes in the budget that were approved by the board at the December, I can't remember which day it was in December off the top of my head, but this is to bring the DOT budget in compliance with the county budget.
Need a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay,
This also requires the signature of the auditor and the chair.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, here we go. Item number 13, A, gang outreach program, current fiscal year, using funds allocated in the current budget, up to $78,000. I did that number. I took the total and divided it by 12 and then took it times 5. The Sanford Center would continue this year's services ending June 30, 2015. A contract would be developed to outline how the program will meet the county guidelines. This will give the Sanford Center 5 months to secure funding from agencies such as Juvenile Court Services, Department of Human Services, Sioux City Community Schools, and/or fundraising. Discussion?
I might start. Did you decide to put this on the agenda this way as opposed to going out for RFP because it's so late in the current budget year?
I'm told that we don't need an RFP at this point.
Because there's no conflict of interest.
Right.
So we can just go straight to contract. Okay.
Okay, take a couple for discussion. Anyone wish to speak to this?
It's for this current year.
Name and address.
George Sayavong, 5009 Orleans, Sioux City, Iowa. I'm up here to read a couple letters. I promise can make it really short. Ms. Hong Cook, she's right here. She's not well enough to be standing up and reading her letter. She's asked I read it for her. She wrote to you guys and she said, please vote yes to keep the San Francisco gang funding. Excuse me, I need a reading glass. For gang outreach program. Dear Supervisor, my name is Hong Cook Thi Nguyen. I am a Vietnamese Association advisor of Sioux City and a retired social worker. During my tenure as a director of Refugees Resettlement Program with Sioux City Lutheran Social Services in the 90s, I managed the crime prevention of our agency. We combine our efforts with the Sanford Center to work closely with at-risk youth to guide them to become good citizens, to keep our school and community safe, and especially to keep our juvenile detention center less populated. The gang outreach program has been very successful since. Parents, guardians feel safe going to work, and at the same time, they know their children are safe too. The Bureau of Refugee Services closed in 2002, and Lutheran Social Services stopped its service in 2004. The San Francisco Gang Outreach Program is the only prevention program that the Vietnamese, the Laotian, and the other minority members in our community have. As an advisor of Vietnamese Association, I am asking you to not vote yes, but also to sustain the gang outreach program. My final thought, our freshman supervisor, let us hear from you as you promised our Asian communities. Sai, Hong Kuk Thi Nguyen. This letter is written by me, George Sayavong. First of all, I want to take a second to thank all those that came in and support me today. I'm not going to mention any name, but you guys know you're here to support our effort. And thank you. I'm standing in front of you today, Mr. Chairman, County Board of Supervisors, as an Asian American and as a proud member to call Sioux City home. 4 years my father served and fought along with other American servicemen and women for our freedom and our Americans' value. I'm asking you today to not only vote yes on gang outreach funding, but also asking you to involve other government and non-profit agencies to join your efforts to sustain the gang outreach program. The Sanford Center, my apologies, I have to move my leg around a little bit, so I was diagnosed with blood clots yesterday by my family doctor. And I don't want to nervous anybody when I'm doing this, so I was told I have to move around so I won't get a heart attack in front of you. The Sanford Center used to have almost 20 gang outreach workers working in our community and served over 500 at-risk youth annually. Many youth we served finished college, became productive citizens and taxpayers in our community. The Sanford Center funding has been reduced over the years. We currently have 7 outreach workers. The number of at-risk youth we serve has been tremendously reduced. Instead of cutting the funding, you need to increase our funding. In our experience, gang activities and gang graffiti in the past few years has been increasing. Our new Walgreens on Hamilton Boulevard is already been tagged by gang graffiti. Let's join my father and other servicemen and women in their efforts to invest in our country and our community so we can maintain our Americans' value and quality. Many Asian people and non-Asian American signed the petition that you will be receiving today. Can't be here. Let's honor their request. Mr. Taylor, during your campaign, you told us you want to be voice for Vietnamese people. This is a great opportunity for you to do so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, George.
Mr. Chairman, just to try to clarify what we're doing here. I discussed with you putting this on the agenda, and I asked Mr. Widman if you could proceed at this point without an RFP, and they can, correct, Joshua?
Correct.
Okay. When originally looked at this issue, there was no contract to be found, and so what I'm trying to clarify is what we're doing here. Is this where the request is coming from, and is there a specific amount, and is it coming from the commission, is it coming from you, or is it coming from the Sanford Center?
This question is coming from me.
Okay. So as far as what you envision is that, I mean, there was no contract previously. Right. Do you envision the commission meeting with the Sanford Center to come up with a unit rate and a contract, or, and just to clarify before we have all this discussion, what we're doing here?
I guess I didn't include the commission on this. It would be a contract to finish the year using funds that were there. Commission would have to review the billing process as they have before. I think we need to develop some kind of rules of the game to finish the year out, which I would charge the Assistant County Attorney to develop.
Is there I mean, he's going to be negotiating on behalf of the county. Who is he negotiating with? The Sanford Center?
What do you think?
Well, as far as, I think there's two separate issues here. One is there's some money that's out there from current fiscal year that hasn't been expended because the funding stream was cut off. Now that there's not a conflict of interest, that can be expended, and we could set up a short-term contract to do that. I think as far as from a best practices standpoint and going forward, while an RFP may not be required, I think it would certainly be a best practice. So we would continue to recommend that going forward. From the standpoint of how much time is left in the current fiscal year, realistically, it would be hard to get the RFP done for the dollars that are currently available.
So you would envision just contract here, quickly a short contract to provide services for the balance of the year, of this fiscal year?
That's my understanding of what this item is.
And to negotiate a unit rate or something, because that's what was missing before. The amount that's before us now of $78,000 was 5 months essentially of what was appropriated. Correct. And when I was looking for a contract, I was looking for what we would be looking for as we approve claims is the contract, and for the services, the consideration as far as a unit rate or something like that. Is that?
There is a unit rate.
I believe I think it's like $20 an hour. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is. And I do know there's a bundle, as you all know, of scope and units that are submitted monthly. And didn't review every month, but I pulled a few, and it seems as though what is submitted for payment has been, the Sanford Center has been providing $2,000 to $3,000 more of units of service every month. They're not getting reimbursed from us. We are, took the 186 divided by 12. We're reimbursing them at that rate, but their documentation shows that they are providing more contacts than what we're reimbursing them for. So I'm not sure what you're asking for, I guess.
I would ask, where is that documentation for all the board, for the number of units, for the services provided, for the fiscal financial state right now of the Sanford Center? And is there someone from the Sanford Center who could provide the average unit rate cost, the amount of services that are being provided? Right now, we're simply being asked, based on 5/12 funding, to give a lump sum to the Sanford Center without a contract. I just want to know, I think, similarly to Mr. Gill, what it is that we're voting on without any supporting documentation other than
The process that the Sanford Center uses is very in-depth. It's usually an inch thick, and it outlines contact time. I think it's maybe overkill. It's a lot of information on what they do, how they do it, who they do it to, where they do it, and the units they have involved in each activity. Right, George?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a copy of that
I
for
do
board
have a
members?
copy of all the documentation that has been provided for the past 20 years.
Pat, don't we have that on record?
Yes, we do.
But the original documentation up to September of this year, the original one has been submitted directly to Woodbury County, along with the vouchers.
And they're on file.
I have copies, I don't have the original. I always make two set of copies, so one for individual voters, one individual reserve, and also additional one that I stack them in our basement, so we have an additional document in case this time should happen. Request for, and if you cannot locate the original. I will be more than happy to provide it to you when you request for it.
We have the documentation as far as what those were, but we did not have a contract. We did not have a unit rate. And it's simply, I asked Dennis Butler how we did it in the past, and all they did was divide it by 12. The amount that was appropriated for the year was divided by 12, and that's what was submitted. And I honestly don't care, as far as that. If there's a contract that's just going to say that you're going to provide a monthly rate for that amount that it's appropriated, that's all we need.
Right, and we don't have a proposed contract before the board today. I think that this item is more the principle of it, and then we would come back with the actual contract, and that would be approved at a future board meeting.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that's what we're doing, is that we
This
don't...
item affects the budget. I mean, it has to be dealt with in the budget. If we don't expend it, it goes toward next year. If we do expend it,
Yes, if it isn't expended this year, it just simply goes into the county's reserves.
Right.
The money that isn't expended. All I'm trying to get at is, we need, the discussion is to clarify, is that we have to have a contract, something that the auditor's office has to base it on as far as submitting to the board for payment.
and that would be a part of this discussion,
Right.
developing the contract.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add just one short second, just like Ms. Smith was saying.
Behave now, your doctor said.
I am, yes, sir. Like she said, if we bill by units, if you pay us by units, I think our county is gonna run broke. Because we have so many units, we provide so many services that we are not able to bill for. And we have proof, just like you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, the location and what we have done with our kids, and it's all intel in black and white. Anybody read it will understand exactly what happened, what took place. So it's up to you guys' discussion how you want to do that. You can pay us
I
by-
think the contract would read, as precedent has been set on this, that you would get 1/12 per month based on the billing procedures that you have at an hourly rate, which would all be in a contract.
Thank you.
So up to that monthly amount?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Lego, name and address.
Brad Lego. I'm a resident at 1213 46th Street here in Sioux City, Iowa. And what I'm concerned about is that you're not really looking long term. I think you're really thinking
Not on this issue.
on this issue. I think you're really looking short term, and the ramifications of your actions could really affect our community. You know, I'm a fan of W. Edwards Deming, and he had one of his best statements was, "You handle problems upstream," and that's what we have been doing. You know, for so long here in town, we have contained gangs. We haven't got the problem solved. I don't know if we ever will have it solved, but it is somewhat contained. And if you take this important spoke out of that wheel, we could be in all kinds of trouble. I've talked to educators from around the nation when this started to be a national problem and really was growing with international gangs and what was going on in their communities, and it's just awesome. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Now, if you think this is big money, how about having our malls not be a safe place to have people go shop? Would that affect our tax base? How about people not feeling like they're safe to come here in town for entertainment or gambling? You know, these are real economic issues. That's not and that's not the most important one. I mean, the most important one is the lives of these young men that they've been doing a great job helping move on. That's the most important thing. But the money, if you're concerned about an economic issue, you should be thinking about that long term. This isn't a charity case. This is something where government should be out there being proactive with this. And we haven't been doing, I mean, we could be spending a whole lot more money than we are spending. But to sit there and just throw this up to the wind and say, well, these other agencies should be taking care of it, no. Their budgets are already set, and I've talked to those agencies already. And they don't want to have, you know, they're already spending money on this problem. And the county has some too. And it's not just a Sioux City problem. If these gangs get growing strong here in town, they'll move out into the rest of the county, and they'll take over these small towns. And the hell that can go on in those places is just really unbelievable in a small community. So anyway, I'm urging you to keep supporting this agency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone against approving this?
I just wanted to kind of say something. I'm with the Boy Scouts of America.
Name and address.
Christy Schwatter, and I live in Hinton, in Plymouth County, actually. So I kind of second that it can spread out into the other counties and stuff. I've worked with the Sanford Center for several years, helping with their outreach program, just kind of partnering with them, with the Boy Scouts, and the Girl Scouts come in there and do this as well. I've seen where these kids have come from. We instill trustworthy, honest, loyalty. We come in there and tell them to be better citizens, to do what you guys are doing today, that they can be anybody that they choose to be. And so we go in there and we tell these young kids they can be future leaders. They don't have to be in the situations that they are or they've been raised in or whatever. I stand behind the program because I see somebody who's been in this program for 22 plus years, Fitzgraham, that stands and they've got a person that they can count on to come to after school, and they have that person that they can confide in. It's not all about money. It's you know, fundraising is hard, especially for a nonprofit organization. I know because I'm in one. So you strongly look at it because it affects a lot of things. These kids will not have anywhere to go if they don't have that Sanford Center and they don't have that place. They'll stay at home, getting into trouble, going out on the streets, doing things that they don't, because the parents don't have the income to put them into daycares and stuff like that. So I just hope you look at it because I've seen where these kids have come and what they want to be when they grow up. And if we start taking that stuff away from them, if we give up on them, who else is gonna? That they need people to know in the community that they stand behind them, that they can be somebody and future leaders.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board?
My name is Robert Walker. I'm a former teacher of Sioux City Public Schools. I'm a board member of Sanford Center. Been a board member for some 30-some years. I've learned a lot from working with students in school and out of school. And my primary reason here is to say you must support a program that is as strong as Sanford Center. I grew up in Sioux City, from Booker T. Washington to where it moved into Sanford Center building, and ever since then, I've always thought highly of individuals who are able to put out not only money, but time to support a program that is strong in Sioux City. And Sanford Center has a strong program. Now, some of you, I will say, don't understand what takes place. I suggest that you find out more about Sanford Center than just dollars and cents. First of all, I have to say with my heart, if you take away the power that Sanford Center has, you're going to take away part of the young people that are struggling and that we help stay on the right track. That's the most important thing. But we're looking at money. Yes, this is a materialistic world we live in. But I'll tell you this. It's from my heart that I tell you, you are wrong if you don't support this program. It's a program that has done a lot for Sioux City. I wish we had a number of the individuals who have come through the program and show you and tell you how they made it. I have to give everything to the individuals who are struggling in our program to stay above the water and handle programs and handle students that have enormous problems at home. I sincerely hope that you look at our program and then decide, is this the castaway? Or is this something that we can be a part of to help further the betterment of our city?
Thank you. Board members? Need a motion?
I would say
Go ahead.
the funding has been cut for several months, and it was not the board's action that did that. I just have one question, either for the Sanford Center or for anyone that would know. In talking about long-term planning, has the Sanford Center reached out to any other government agencies to secure funding for the future?
The other agencies that we reach out to are you people.
Amen.
I pay my taxes here. I'm on time. And I would like to see you do your job in seeing that this program is funded. Because this program is the strongest program you'll see. I don't know if you know the fact that these kids come to us in dire need of help. Help from adults. And we give them that help. We help them survive. They become good citizens. And I'm telling you, my heart is strongly behind a program of governing bodies that stand up and say, hey, we can survive. You can be part of our programs. You can do this. You can make a difference. And I do hope that you, governing bodies, can make a difference and look at this program and see what you can do to enhance or to help a program that is strongly needed in this community. I grew up in Sioux City. I have to tell you a story that I grew up in Sioux City, not able to go to Leif Erikson, Riverside, or Lewis Park. I grew up in a time when a minority could not eat at, we called it Green Gables. I grew up in Sioux City with the idea that, wait a minute, Riverside swimming pool is a private pool. And I walked by it all the time going to Council Oak swimming pool, which was a rat hole. And I'm telling you the truth. I said, no one in my day should have to be denied the right for a fair and equal opportunity to make things work. You have the opportunity. There are organizations here that need your help, and it's up to you to figure out how you're going to spend our money on programs that are needed in Sioux City. I heard one gentleman say, I'm not going to raise taxes. I'm sorry, but you've got the money to raise taxes. That you can help, people are willing to help. United Way does a good job. But you as governing bodies can do a good job by serving the people that you were elected for. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. You were elected to do a job. And by goodness, I hope you do your job. Because I'll tell you the truth, I feel so strongly, if you don't do your job, which you say that you're going to, I'll work my behind off to see that you are removed and somebody else that can come in there, be it Republican or Democrat, that wants to do a job for the people. It's not Democrat or Republican, it's people. And that's what we are. People wanting some jobs done well. Study your work. Study these programs before you say, cut this and cut that. It's not the time to cut. It's time to study. Study what's taking place in Sioux City. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Are we to board discussion, or are we to board discussion, or are we continue?
Well, we got a couple more here.
Yeah, Dick Owens, 3001 Malloy Road here in Sioux City. I'll answer Matthew's question, and I don't have all the details, but I'm also on the board. Prior to every year, Sanford Center reaches out to raise additional money. The money that comes from the county, and I'm going to talk about this in much more detail later, is probably a drop in the bucket. It's a very important drop. This year, for instance, the United Way application going in will be requesting additional dollars. And I don't remember what that figure is, but it's something like $50,000. At that time, we also got a grant through one of the hospitals. It was either $5,000 to $10,000. We had two people that work at Sanford Center that has gone out to the community, knocked on doors, and brought in additional money. I asked George what that total amount probably has taken place, not counting United Way because we get substantial dollars there. But of the new money, it's probably $50,000 to $60,000 that we have done. Now, the other part, I know the question of raising money in nonprofits, and I belong to nonprofits. I've been very much involved in money raising. You need to look at the clientele and the people served when you go out and you see somebody has raised $150,000. When you look at the people that their kids are being served, you see a lot of people of wealth. People of wealth get other people of wealth to bring in money. So if I'm in a nonprofit and I'm on a board, or if they have a lot of people of wealth, I can assure you that running that fund drive is easy. All you need to do is look at the clientele that served at Sanford Center. We tried a fundraising, we made a little money about 4 years ago, but doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing more. As a board member, I'm sure we will, but I think you need to put perspective. We did reach out, we got more money. We will try to get more money, but you have to understand where we come from. I wished we had a much more wealthy group supporting us, but the reality is that our fund drives will always be less than those that have people of wealth driving their fund drives.
One more.
Jerry Hernandez, 2000 Outer Drive North. I'm currently right now working for Mercy Medical Center as their outreach coordinator. We work very closely with the Sanford Center. I want to tell you that I was born and raised in Compton, California, and this city does not have a gang problem. But if you don't do anything to work at it right now, it would be equivalent to me not taking care of myself and then waiting until I have diabetes or a health problem and then trying to fix it, where you folks are going to end up dumping so much money into this problem that you would have wished you would have addressed it today. Now, the issue with the Sanford Center, I don't know what everything's taking place, but Mercy itself, we do a lot of outreach with them. We work with them in outreaching for their summer program. We work with them reaching out to their Asian community. So Mercy itself, we're putting money into the Sanford Center to help them. We also have a program that we're working with not only Sioux City Community Schools, but with the Sanford Center in regards to putting together an ACT prep test course that we have been doing, which we're very successful at. That's coming out of, we're donating money to be able to support that program and bringing it to underprivileged children. Now, the Sanford Center does so many things behind the scenes that you probably aren't aware of, but I'm here to tell you today, if you don't take care of this issue now, there's a story in the Bible where the king did not recognize the writing on the wall. If you folks are not seeing the writing on the wall, it's because you're not driving in areas where it is. And if you wait until it's out in the open and it's at Southern Hills Mall and that there's all over the place next to your house, there's a reason why it's not there. If you don't continue to do this gang outreach, you'll have a severe problem, which you won't be able to fix. You have a murder here maybe once a year. You're going to be having them every day. You need to think about that. I moved here because it was a safe place to live. I did an online search. I looked at South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. I went to parenting.com. You can go there today. Omaha, Nebraska were ranked at number 10 and number 9 as the best places to live. If I move to Siouxland, I'm in the tri-state area, I get to figure out where I want to go. If this ends up being a problem, I will move because I want a safe place for my kids. So I just want to voice my opinion today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like my wife to come to the podium because she wrote something and she's nervous, but she has something concrete to tell you.
Name, address?
My name is Julie Albert, and I live at 3409 Military Road. And for 10 years, I worked as a Safe Schools Healthy Students therapist. In the public schools, it was a grant that was started many years ago through the schools and Siouxland Mental Health Center, and reached many kids in the Siouxland area that were at risk. Many of the students I encountered in the schools that I worked were from Irving, Smith, Roosevelt, Emerson, Everett, Liberty, Crescent Park, and Riverside. It was always a relief to me to be in a school that had an on-site gang prevention outreach worker station there. Many of the students I provided therapy services to also had other needs. I could always count on the outreach worker from the Sanford Center to get involved and help. If the kids needed tutoring, rides, family support, or even a hot meal in the evening, the program was available to them. One of my early years working in the schools, I got a call from a principal. A sibling group of elementary students in her school had lost a parent in a terrible tragedy. This was a single parent family. A father was not in the home to pick up the pieces. Extended family members stepped in to care for these kids, and they that were essentially orphans. These relatives were overwhelmed and didn't speak English fluently. Not only were they taking on the responsibility of raising these young kids, they also had funeral arrangements, living arrangements, and all kinds of crises to deal with. Alma Cespedes from the Sanford Center stepped in to help. She spent time with the family, helped with funeral planning, gave rides to the kids, got new shoes for the boys, attended the funeral, and stayed connected with this family for years beyond this experience. These kids did not fall through the cracks. One of the oldest boys in this family graduated about a year or two ago. He held down a job, he stayed out of trouble, he completed his education, and he didn't get involved with gangs. He had many opportunities where he could have. He had goals and role models. I'm grateful to Alma and the Sanford Center. They stepped in and did the right thing. I probably have 30 more stories like this. Before cutting the funding to the Sanford Center, please consider who will really be hurt. Who will provide these services to these kids if you cut the funding to the Sanford Center? This program is important and it works. And I want to add one last thing. I also work for United Way Agency and we provide services to kids. And if you think you can get services for $20 an hour from any place else, I'd like to know where that is. You're getting a heck of a bang for your buck. There's no place else that will provide those services for $20 an hour. We couldn't. So thanks, and please don't cut the funding.
One more. Mr. Rixner. Name and address.
Jim Rixner, 114 Midvale Avenue, Sioux City, Iowa. I really was not going to address you all today about all this, but listening to Julie, who for 10 years worked for us as a school therapist, connecting with the Sanford Center, reminded me of how valuable this work is. As some of you know, I have a little bit of a political background as well as a professional background. As a person involved in politics, as elected public officials, who I respect all of you for running for office, the effort it takes, and for the position you're involved in. The element that's missing in this conversation is the one that concerns me the most. Everybody here is touched upon in a variety of ways. There is no other alternative, ladies and gentlemen. If this program disappears, you're going to have to create one. And it's going to cost you 10 times the amount of money to do that. There is nobody else in this community that does the work that these people do. Number one. Number two, it's absolutely relevant to Woodbury County. This isn't just a not-for-profit that's coming here asking you for money. This program keeps kids out of jail. It keeps kids out of detention. It keeps people from being hurt. You're going to have to find a way to do that if you're going to actively protect this community, or you're going to be pouring thousands and thousands of dollars into juvenile justice and juvenile detention. That's why this is relevant to the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors. What infuriates me is the conversation that somehow this is a program that sits off to the side, and maybe we should fund it, maybe we should not fund it. That's not the issue. You don't have the luxury of that opinion, because if you choose not to fund it, you've created more problems for yourself and for this county and this city. We send people into the Woodbury County Jail every day through the mental health program I operate. We have people working with the juvenile justice system. We have people working in the schools. Why are we doing that? Somebody says, well, that's not mental health. It is, because everything we do to prevent somebody from developing a character, a behavior, an action that leads to jail and incarceration and a life of misery is worth doing. So you're going to have to find a way to do what the Sanford Center is going to do. It's going to cost you more money. You want to keep kids out of detention? You want to make a safe community? Then it's in your interest as the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors to do this for all the taxpayers in Woodbury County. It's just not a luxury discussion. It's not, well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do this. You should do it as part of what Woodbury County is doing. Not seen as a handout, not seen as money just being put into a program. It's vital to what you're supposed to be doing as Woodbury County Supervisors. It's your job, ladies and gentlemen. We expect you to do it.
Discussion.
I'm trying to figure out how to craft my motion. What I'd like to do, and I don't know if I can, is to go ahead and give directive to the county attorney to craft a contract for the remainder of this budget year, and then to renew that contract at $186,000 for the next year.
It's a separate item B.
Then I'll start with the first half of that motion, to enter into a contract.
Can
for the
I
rest of the year.
read to you a motion that I have drafted?
Yeah,
please?
you can.
To approve the development of a contract with the Sanford Center to provide services of up to $78,000 for the gang outreach program for the current fiscal year ending 6/30/2015.
Works for me. I'll move it.
Need a second?
Second?
Discussion.
I want to explain why I will not vote affirmatively on this. As I walked streets and talked to many people, one of the concerns was about fundamental services, fiscal responsibility, and fairness. And hearing from one outreach worker this morning who said after everything that was done, you're saying they're going to turn around after our county attorney halted illegal payments and give that money that was held and have no RFP process. And this individual had worked with the Sanford Center in the past and said, is that a fair process? We talked about fundraising and the fact that our other 60-plus nonprofits do the hard work, as was mentioned, to fundraise, exercise their fiduciary responsibility, go and make application to other government entities, which we heard none of from the city of Sioux City. I understand there may be a request to the Sioux City Community School District, again, which may be forthcoming, or the Missouri River Historical Development, which with 5% of its annual money could hold the Sanford Center harmless in perpetuity. And so, based on what I feel is a lack of fundamental fairness in the process, I won't be supportive of the motion that's made. I recognize the services that are provided and some very good individuals within the organization. However, I do not think it's fair. I think our other nonprofits have expressed that, and I think our taxpayers, who were very surprised not only that the funding was there in the first place, by the process at which that funding was arrived at. And so I just want to state my reasons why I will not be supportive, but I won't discuss this piece at this moment any further until we get down to the next item about funding in the future.
Do your homework, Mr. Taylor.
Anyone else?
You're wrong, but you have your own opinion, and I can, understand that. Fiscal responsibility. It's fiscally irresponsible to take a program, and I hate to keep using the Sanford Center. It's an outreach program run by the Sanford Center. It goes back to 90, 98, 96, 92. It was developed by Juvenile Court Services, and it was run through the state with county funds. The county gave Juvenile Court Services X amount of dollars for various programs in the county. You're being penny wise and pound foolish if you think you're going to save any money by not funding a prevention program like this, because you're either going to pay me now or you're going to pay me a lot more later. Socially, I heard him say it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. You can't base everything on making a budget work. I've been on this board a long time, and And the reason I believe I am on this board is because I'm the cheapskate. I don't fund anything. But I can differentiate in what is needed, what saves the county money, and what is the right thing to do. And in this case, there's just no question. We should fund the Sanford Center, the outreach program. If we don't, next year or the year after, you're going to have to come up with a lot more money. This following year, juvenile detention has told us they're going to have $450,000 of out-of-state, out-of-county money because of the different programs they can serve. If this outreach program isn't there, we're going to fill the juvenile detention center with Woodbury County residents. It will not be a revenue generator. It'll be a drag on this budget. We're going to have to redo the budget all over again. I can go on and on, but I don't want to bore anybody. I'm just telling you, Jeremy, it's the right thing to do. That's the end of mine.
Well, I think I've been very clear in my support of prevention dollars. You know, last week we took a wellness holiday, if you will. So I look at this, even in healthcare, we put money into wellness activities because it saves money because we don't get as sick and we don't spend as much. Prevention is seen in education. There's preschool programs. There's response to intervention programs for at-risk kids. Because if you can fund things right at the front end of the system, it is much less expensive. So I can argue this in dollars and cents, but I can also argue this from a human standpoint. And really, what's the most important thing? We are cultivating future taxpayers and citizens. And this is not a nonprofit agency. This is a government-supported prevention program that serves all of our needs. I've said it, I'll say it again, but I support it.
Matthew?
I've said my piece.
I've received a lot of mail, phone calls, stopped in the stores. I've been threatened a few times, folks. What is this? What's going wrong with our society? Why are we threatening each other? And you know what? It wasn't just on the Sanford side, it was on the other side, who don't want taxes to go up. What are we doing? People threatening people over what? Call roll.
Smith.
Aye.
Taylor.
Nay.
Ung.
Nay.
Clausen.
Aye.
Monson. Thanks, Pat. Aye. Item B. It's the same discussion for the next fiscal year. I don't know that we need to go over the same items again. Yes, sir.
My name is Trent Wright, 5206 Seeger here in Sioux City, Iowa. I think nonprofits provide huge, huge value to the community. Huge. I started a nonprofit for disabled veterans. My wife has volunteered for nonprofit CSADV. I've given hundreds of hours of volunteer time and thousands of dollars. It's wrong for you to take the choice of what charities I give to, especially with the process you used. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Dick Owens, 3001 Malloy Road. First thing, before I get into my actual thing that I want to present, I want to clear up a couple ideas. When you go back in 1992, the leaders of this community, mainly driven by the educators, and that was superintendent of schools and many of the principals, saw their schools in dire need because of people of aggressive behavior, partly given in part by gangs. And then at the January meeting, I think we left the consensus, or at least the idea, that it was only Sioux City that benefit from that. When you go back and look at the minutes, we had a school very close to Sioux City that had gang problems to the point that in that group they asked for services, and services were given to them because they put in an additional probation officer and they put in a liaison officer. I was working at Morningside College at that time, and we had student teachers out in the rural schools. And I can tell you there were at least 3 rural schools were impacted by the gang activity that was going on in Sioux City. So when you look at what we're looking at, and I'm going to address it very hopefully strong at the end, this program in the beginning, certainly the most direct benefits came to the parents and the students and the educators in Sioux City. But don't forget that others needed it. And if this had not gone to an effect at that time, that roots that gangs grow and they support and they put money in would have spread throughout the county. And I have no doubt of that. The other thing I want to say is, why did they come to Sanford Center? It's obvious. Sanford Center at that time had a history of quality and value, and they knew where to come. And Sanford Center stepped up. Now, what I really want to talk to, and I hope you have done this, you cannot make a decision until you have looked at the impact study. I would like to have every one of you get out your impact study data, because I'm going to share mine, and mine is short. You have staff, you have people that could get that data for you. You may not agree. Your impact study may not agree with what I give you. If not, I'm willing to visit with you later, because I believe in research, and I believe in bringing data before you make a decision. The first thing to look at are gang prevention programs like Sanford Center effective in terms of dollars? And I'm going to talk a lot about dollars. And the answer to that is yes, providing their quality, and there are certain things they have to have. They have to have what you call a home involvement, where they involve parents within working with their student. There has to be a mentoring program, and there has to be strong follow-up. And you may not know, but the Sanford Center, when a student comes into their program, are followed totally throughout high school till they graduate. They have an extremely strong program in personalization and in individualization. And again, when you go back at the research, it says this is exactly what you need. The other thing is programs to be prevention need to be within a system. And that was addressed a little bit by Mr. Rixner, but when you look at the system, it's a juvenile probation, it's a school system, it's a school Sioux City Police, liaison officers, parents, Siouxland Mental Health, and it goes on and on. If you take one part of a system, pull it out, the entire system weakens. The next thing looked at are the cost effective, and here's where I think you better get your pencils out. This is research, this is not Dick Owens. When you go in and study the impact on taxpayers, it is almost 100% that the taxpayers save for every dollar you put in a prevention program like Sanford Center, if they have the quality I'm talking about. You save from $7 to $10. Some of them even show $15. So if you're interested and you want to do something for taxpayers, I got the answer for you. If you look at the Sanford Center, use that particular data and multiply it out. You're going to find that the trade-off for every dollar, if you use the $7 is 1.3 million. If you use a figure of the $10, it's 1.8 million. I use 5 because I'm very conservative. That's $1 million. If you look at the savings and you say, oh my gosh, that's real high. Some people have looked at that, but when you look at it, what are your alternatives? If kids are not kept out of the system, they go into incarceration. And this has been mentioned a little bit. The two systems that they tend to go into, one is detention, $300 a day, $9,000 a month, over $100,000 per year. The other thing that you need to look at, and was noted here, in Sioux City, if they go in there, if they don't go in there, you save $9,000 a month. You leave the bed open, somebody comes in and purchases through the contract, you save $9,000. Put that together, you're saving $18,000. That is why when you look at the dollar return, is why it appears high, but when you start adding it all together, that's where the data comes from. If they do not get out of the system, the data shows very, very few people actually get out of the system once they're in the penal system. But if they don't, they end up in prison. $34,000 a year. If you look at the average, it's 5 years. So you're looking at somewhere between $100,000, $150,000 to $175,000. That's one person. I can tell you, because I work a little bit with disabled people, and I can show you 5 people that are in prison right now. They'll be in prison for 5 to 7 years. If they could have gotten in to an intervention program, they should not be there. There's ways, people, to save money. So if you look at the next thing, we're talking county dollars. So you're using county dollars to fund what I call the incarceration programs. That means your detention center. That means your prison. You also have county dollars that you can put into the Sanford Center. So you really do have a choice. Now, in a January meeting, there were 2 concerns. I really want to take some time on this. There was a concern that one of the reasons some of this should not be supported is because it's not countywide, or that it is specific to Sioux City. Let's address it. I really want you to rethink what you just said when you said that. First thing, when you look at any program, you have direct and indirect services. So when you put money in 1992, they put money in the program, you're right. The direct service benefited the people of Sioux City, the parents and schools and so forth. But as I noted before, some of the schools also got benefits from that. Any taxpayer, if they really think about it, when you have people that don't have prevention, they get incarcerated into the prison or the detention center, every person in this state, every person in this county, every person in Sioux City pays taxes. If you decrease the number of students and the cost of going to detention, the indirect and eventually direct is every taxpayer. It is not a solution to Sioux City. It's a solution to help everybody with their taxes. You people fund, and I strongly support your economic, that rural program where you're assisting incorporated communities and non-incorporated. If I was in Sioux City, I would say, well, that's going to people that's not going to help me. That is not really true. That program, even though it's not the direct dollars to Sioux City, when you help those communities and they gain more wealth, that spreads to the county. Now, somewhere I heard in one of your discussions that you have match funds program and you can support those. If you really look at it, this is a match fund program. You put dollars, $2, you're going to reap a lot of dollars. Now, 2 other comments. Number 1, you sit there, I sit there, and you say, okay, you're talking about pie in the sky. They're not real dollars. I use the example, I had a person ask me this. I use an example. I'm standing here, you're sitting there. This room is full of all kinds of pictures and voices. You don't know that until you bring in the antenna and you bring in the TV. So when I talk about all these savings, you can't see them. What do you use for the antenna and the TV? You use research. Research says, and it's constant, it's appropriate, it's reliable, it's vital, that if every dollar you put in prevention, you're going to save 10, 7, or at least 5. So if you want to speak and vote for the taxpayers of Woodbury County, you're going to have an option. You can either vote against it and see large numbers of students going into detention, $9,000 a month, send them to prison, $4,000 a month. Or you can be a good steward of the taxpayers, get the prevention dollars in. Every person in Sioux City, including you guys and ladies, and every one of us sitting here, and the people of Woodbury County will thank you because you have saved us tax dollars. So you have a choice. I hope you make the correct one.
Thank you, Dick. George?
Before I take off, like I said earlier, that you guys will be receiving the petition, the citizen side who can be here. So I would like to give this to Mr. Chairman. Can I step forward?
Please.
So are yours, sir.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to kind of educate you guys a little bit, just in case you're not aware of it. In the state of Iowa, we have 76,000 Asian American. That's what you call that, the research, the U.S. citizenship, do that in 2012. Since census has been going up.
Thank you.
It's not allowed. I'm sorry. Thank you, sir, Mr. Gill. Since then, the number has gone up, and you guys know that Burmese, Bertrand, or whatever the country is. So Iowa have taken in a lot of refugees. I just have a privilege to be sitting on that one of the governor's board to learn this number. So we have a large number of these populations that are coming to our area. It's heavily in Storm Lake, Iowa, heavily in Rapid City, Iowa, but it's also here in Sioux City as well. One thing that I want you guys to be aware of is that the new generation, the new refugee, is not the same when I first came as a refugee in the 80s. We have longer time to recuperate. If you remember the letter from Ms. Hong Cook, that the service was available, we're talking about years ago, but now it's closed. So the new refugees only have 90 days. Think about this, hard and long. Whether you want it to become your problem or not, it will become your problem. Think about this. I'm going to throw you in the swimming pool, and you're going to have to learn how to swim in 90 days. If you don't know how to swim, good luck to you. So the responsibility is going to come out to us as the taxpayers. If you guys understand what I'm saying. Our government said 90 days. Japanese say sayonara. Lao say bye-bye. Your Thai say la kon. Okay? So, Spanish may say adios. What I'm saying here is that these people have nowhere to go. Our government take them here, bring them here. And they said, now it's your problem. They're in your community, it's your problem. Our United States government said it's no longer one problem after 90 days. What are we going to do about it? The Sanford Center have Vietnamese worker, Laotian worker, who can speak Thai, Hmong, have everybody in our community represent in that group. So think about new generation come to our city. Forget about the gang outreach. Forget about what the problem we have. Obviously, we have 3 votes said yes, we need this service, and 2 said no. I think we all clearly hear that in here. If you don't, you guys got to speak up. Okay? So what I'm saying to you here is that whether we want this refugee or not, whether they want these folks in our community or not. Our U.S. government are taking them in. They're here. They're here permanently to stay. Neither you, or any of us in this room can say, we will be deporting you unless they commit certain crime. So our government said it's your problem now after 90 days. So what are you going to do about it? I mentioned Asian. These people are Asian. Okay? Mr. Taylor, Mr. Unk, this is your chance to make it right.
Thank you. Do you have a well-crafted motion?
That was going to be my next question here. It's on the agenda. It's up to you folks. Someone needs to make a motion to clarify what it is, because it's on the agenda for a gang outreach program for the fiscal year 2015-2016, and the approval of this item would fund the program next year for $186,925 using tax dollars. So if that's what you want to consider, that motion needs to be made.
Is there
And
someone
that's
make the
the
motion?
discussion has been, we're talking about, this isn't just for the Sanford Center, it's to fund the gang outreach program that the commission would be working on, and also whether it should be funded using taxpayer dollars.
So for a point of clarification, Mr. Chair, this would not be a motion then to fund the Sanford Center at $186,925. It's historical funding. It would be to fund a gang outreach program that would have an RFP in the future.
You have the commission that's in place now that is set. I think they already considered the RFP, didn't you?
There is an RFP that's finished, ready to go.
But that was, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that was for this year.
But it's the same for next year, too. I mean, it's an RFP that would certainly be applicable.
That's my understanding, is we're not talking about the Sanford Center. We're talking about charging that commission with putting together that RFP to service these programs.
So then it could be $186,925 that theoretically Mr. Auditor could go and part to the Boys and Girls Home, to the Boys Club, to Girls Inc., to a portion to the Sanford Center. Is that what you're saying? Or?
That's correct. It's up to that commission to craft that. But the agenda item, you're considering funding that, setting aside, earmarking that amount of dollars for this type of program for the next fiscal year. And as it's said on the agenda item, it depends on what your motion's going to be. But the agenda item right now says to be funded with taxpayer dollars, which means property tax dollars, right, Dennis? From what fund? From general basic?
General supplemental.
General supplemental.
I would ask if there is a motion to specifically fund the Sanford Center specifically with property tax dollars at $186,925. I think that implied in the agenda item, under approval of this item would fund the program, would refer back most likely to the Sanford Center, and would ask if that's a motion that any board member has the pleasure to make.
It says in your agenda, gang outreach program. We have the RFP from the Prevention Commission, and I don't know what else you can do. I mean, that's what this is all about.
Just a question if that's the pleasure of any board member to ask in specific. That's what we did with the previous item.
Right.
And so I'm not making the motion. I'm asking if that's the pleasure of any board member, because that is what the public has been asking, that is here anyway, specifically for the Sanford Center. And so that's the question I'm simply raising.
Anyone want to move that?
The motion would be to fund the gang outreach program for $186,925 for fiscal year 2015-16.
Well, then the motion for A should have been to fund the gang outreach program because
I'm
it
not
says the
talking
same
about
thing.
A, I'm talking about B. A is, we're done with A.
It says the same thing though, and that was Taylor's point.
Are you making a motion, Larry?
Well, A specifically mentions the Sanford Center where B does not. That's a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, clarify for me what it is.
We're allocating 186, well, I'll let,
To fund the gang outreach program for fiscal year 2015-16. Everyone, and the auditor included, wanted a contract. The Prevention Commission was charged with sending out for RFPs. That has been done.
No, it has not.
It has not.
What is this?
That's an RFP that was to come to the board
Oh, for approval.
for approval. It's
And
never made it that.
It's never reached the
It's
agenda.
it's never reached the board.
But that was just for fiscal
Hang on.
year, the current fiscal year. That RFP.
I don't believe so, Pat.
Yes, it is.
Well, I would recommend we change the dates and go for next year then. I mean, the contract was somewhere in there. It
No,
said,
you could do that. I mean, very easily.
I mean,
The commission can
I don't
put
see
that
any
RFP.
reason
I'm just saying that
you
one,
have to
that
go back.
all it is, you'd have to change some dates. But that RFP that was before the commission was for this current fiscal year. What I would explain to Mr. Taylor is that the RFP that is currently out there could be easily adjusted to work for the services for the coming fiscal year.
Is that the motion?
Wait.
To fund gang outreach program using the RFP, redating it for fiscal year 15-16.
The motion can simply be is to fund a gang outreach program for the next fiscal year, and it should be specifically mentioned whether it's going to be funded with property tax dollars from the general supplemental fund. That's what the motion should be.
Discussion.
Is that your motion still, Larry?
My motion.
Okay.
To
Still
fund
Mike?
it through property tax dollars, correct? Okay, thank you very much. That's clarifying and helpful, and I'll just make one last point. I do not feel that it is the core service that this board, who has, and I'll go back to other funding sources, I think it's an either-or fallacy of either county government funds this with property tax dollars or it can't be funded at all. It's not true. There are sources out there, as every other nonprofit, over 60 of them, and they don't all have wealthy clientele. Some of them serve very at-risk children. But what they do is they exercise their fiduciary responsibility and that of the executive director to raise funds. And if our supervisors are serious about it, with less than 3 weeks MERD funding, this wouldn't be an issue. With
Jeremy,
less than 3
Excuse
weeks.
me.
Funding is
And that's something that
involved with it all.
I think 3 of our supervisors sit on MERD. But I'll move on to my last point.
One sits on MERD from the county.
Do you sit on MERD, Mr. Clausen?
That I'm the one.
You
Mr.
sit on-
Monson represents AEA, I believe, and I believe Mrs. Smith represents AEA, or did at the time when they were appointed.
So all 3 of you sit on MERD, is your point?
But you're confusing the issue. To me, it's kind of like when you do your school job. You go to school, you do that job. You go to the county job, you do your county job. You're mixing apples and oranges here. Our decision today should have nothing to do with MERD. So I think you're confusing the issue, and I think those 2 dots connected, I don't know how you do that.
I think it's very easy. I think you look at, could the Sanford Center be held harmless? And you ask the nonprofits, exercise the same fiduciary responsibility as every other nonprofit that comes before MERD, that comes before their fundraising capabilities, and it's an either-or fallacy that either this program is funded through county property tax dollars, and I appreciate that that's the motion, because I wanted that to be stated very clearly, because I think it was a fundamental issue ahead of our office taking, and so I would ask for a record roll call vote on this issue. Thank you very much.
MERD funds things once. They do not fund salary, fringes, ongoing expenses. That's been the policy. That is the policy. It's not going to change. The three of us aren't going to change the way MERD ends up because there's 16 on there. So MERD money is not good unless you want, number one, they don't give out that much money in a timely fashion for this discussion, and number two, it's only one time. You wanted to say something.
My name is Daniel Ford. I live at 3435 Jackson Street. I came into this community in 1998. I work for the Sioux City School District. I work through Juvenile Court Services and the school district partnership, where I'm loaned into the school and partially funded by the district and Juvenile Court Services. This game prevention program to hear you talk about, I just want to cry inside if you would take that away, because you don't know the work that we put in out there in the parks and trying to keep these parks clean and keep these kids active and keep these kids involved. If you take away that, you're taking us back. We're going backwards. What the Sanford Center do over there, I refer so many kids to them because we only can do so much. And I'm also the director of the Big 12 Youth Development Program. We have a track program, we have an after-school program, we have a summer program, and we have a boxing program. Most people know us by the boxing program. But if you take that program away, I have nowhere to send those kids now. I have nowhere to tell these kids you can go because they won't have that program to go to. And please think about that long and hard. I'm out there in the trenches. I'm out there doing the work. And without the Sanford Center, it's just done. I don't know how else to say it. It almost makes me speechless. I can barely make myself talk right now. Just the ideal that you would take that away. You think the tagging that's going on now, you multiply that by a lot, because they'll be recruiting those kids that the Sanford Center give alternative to. They'll get those kids. They'll get those kids. And I know that for a fact. And it just breaks my heart to hear that we took so hard to get programs like that, and now to know that we'll take it away. That's all I can. I can't say anymore. So please, come down to the park and walk with me a little bit. Come and walk in my shoes, and then tell me about taking a program like the Sanford Center out, this game prevention program away and not fund it, or even more the Sanford Center itself. I'm not even, this bill is about right now, I believe, just the game prevention. So I was about to faint back there when I walked in and I heard that was the case. When I got a call this morning, I stopped what I was doing, because there's no way that change can happen, taking away the Sanford Center or even this game prevention. Thank you for allowing me to say what I had to say.
Thank you, Daniel. Jim.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Jim France. I live at 700 4th Street here in downtown beautiful Sioux City, Iowa. I just want you to know that I've been in this business for about 10 years and have very pleasantly